We have our next speaker, Shashwat Eternal. He is with NFT3, one of the fantastic sponsors of this event. So shout out to them. He is the CMO, so he's going to give a bit of an intro on what does culture look like for different brands in the Web3 crypto space, and how do you really shape that and bring in the right type of people to your community, to your project, and you just have the right people engaged so that you can succeed with those people following you along, using your platform, using what you're doing many times over, and keeping them around. So, fellow marketer myself, so super interesting to me. And he's been in crypto for 2+ years, CMO of multiple projects, advisor as well, helping startups grow and scale in the space. So yeah, with that, I'll give it over to Shashwat. Let's talk about marketing. Woo!
Okay, I'm Shashwat, obviously. Wait, something's happened with the mic. Can you guys hear me all right? I just want to check. Okay, great. How can I start here? I know it's super early for crypto people anyway, so even I'm a little groggy myself. But going to basically try and talk about onboarding people that are qualitatively better for the space overall. You know, it's going to be a discussion on my belief about how to market a crypto project. Okay, thanks, man. I think there's a balance between hype and longevity, right? And all of us like hype, but on a day like today, right, sub 30K BTC, firmly in the bear market. I know we should have begun with the joke, but this is where I'm beginning. We now need to think about longevity. And I would, in that balance of longevity and hype, always pick longevity. So the question is, how do we do that? How do we get people who are in it for the long term, not just the builders, but also the token holders and so forth? So that's kind of the talk. My idea is that the answer is culture. I'll get into that. But first, I'm going to open up this image, mainly because I think it's really bloody cool. And we spent months making this. This is the image that pops up when you open up NFT3.com. And yeah, I love it. And apart from that, there is a purpose for adding this here. I think it exemplifies and symbolizes how I think one should market in this space. As you can see, it evokes emotion, right? That's the idea. I will keep popping this up over and over again because, like I said, I love it so much. But let's first get some context into who I am and why I got into this space, how I got into it, and why I believe what I believe, right? So 6, 7 odd years ago, okay, I'm basically a high-scoring kid from middle-class India, which obviously means I'm an engineer. I gave the engineering exams like everybody, cleared them, got into one of the best schools in the world. But at the same time, I come from 3 generations of lit professors. So my mother's an English literature professor. Her father was one as well. So when I was about 16, I knew I was going to be a novelist. And my plan was, I'm going to go first year of my college, write my book. Second year of my college, it's going to become a bestseller. I'm going to be fucking rich, and I'm going to drop out. That was kind of the hope and the plan, very naively, as it was. But it didn't pan out like that, obviously. But this came out right when my friends in engineering college were passing out. It took me 3 years to write. It was my first novel. I nearly killed myself writing it. But it was, something I have always wanted to do and something I carry even now. My journey into marketing begins with this because I had a $0 marketing budget and a book I had spent 3 years on, and really my own life on, that I was trying to sell. What did I do? I tried to play to my strengths. So I tried to create more content that would hopefully get me some visibility. I did this for about 2.5 years, basically digital marketing for my own thing. this is one example of it. It's called The Doctrine of Internet Art. It's basically an essay exploring what I thought back then. As you can see, it's from 2017. I had already realized that marketing art online meant being a different kind of artist. So I got more and more interested about how do I tackle this confluence of technology and culture. Obviously, at this point, I was firmly on the culture side of it, right? But it was a good puzzle. I kept creating more and more stuff about it. This was basically my entire thought process at that point. I also did a bunch of AMAs, a lot of stuff, my experience of marketing things essentially comes from trying to sell something that was very dear to me, and trying to not sell from a hype perspective, but sell from a value perspective. Post all of this, 2.5 years of this, I started my own company. It was in the food space. It was actually with my then girlfriend, now wife, who's here. And we were doing okay. We were doing okay as a startup will. But then COVID happened. So that had to be shut down. But it led me to crypto because I figured, okay, I can help crypto projects market. I'm interested in tech. I know the marketing side. And so 2 more years passed, and now I'm here at NFT3.com. Our founder's name is Dylan. He gave the keynote speech here yesterday, actually, and he's here as well. Thanks so much for being, man. And I bring all of this sort of cultural weight to all that I do. And that's why I'm so firmly interested in not hyping things up, but building for the long term in a way that's meaningful. I think that's a key thing for me. Now, coming back to the thing we want to talk about, how to market a crypto project aiming for longevity and not a dump short after the token launch, right? So what are the lessons? I've been in crypto for 2+ years, which is a lifetime in crypto, right? This is my 3rd project that I'm leading the marketing for. And what I've learned so far is short-term hype cycles are there are dumps. There's a lot of misalignment of incentives, I think, when you have this open a market, right? 24/7, all the time. There are DEXs, there is DeFi. You cannot really control anything, nor should we want to, right? But that does mean that we have to connect with our audience at a much deeper level than incentive, than just trying to make a quick profit. So there's a lot of problems when you start marketing a crypto project. Essentially, you have when Binance coming up all the time, when is TGE coming up if you pre-launch, right? But if you try and distill all of the problems that are there in a project connecting with an audience, essentially it's a crisis of faith. What do I mean by that? If they have only come to you for the profit, then they will leave if they think there's no profit. If you can make them come to you for some other reason, right, hopefully a compelling reason, then they might stay for longer. So speculation cannot create loyalty. That's the rough thing that all of us are sort of struggling with. It's hard to accept because it's easy to get people on board when you offer them speculation, but they don't stay, right? As long as speculation remains the primary method of onboarding people, this idea that you can get financial freedom in a year or 2, which is true, by the way. But if that is how you brought that person on board, then that's the kind of person you're bringing in. So the challenge is to balance this with the vision that you have as a project. And that's, I think, the way to find believers and not just flippers. I'm not speaking down on anybody that looks for financial freedom in the space. I am here for that as well, of course, But the point is to contextualize what you're doing as a project as being larger than just that, right? We've all put capital behind our decisions. That's the way of the market. But we're also putting our effort and our time, and most of the time, our entire lives, right? Like, we work 13-hour days now, every day, to make NFT3 something big. And if I can get my community to tap into that energy a little bit, I think if they can connect with the vision, a change can be brought forth. So sell the vision. We'll come to with a simple hook later. But here we reach the image again. Hence this. Nothing technical about it, right? Is it NFTs? Is it DIDs? Is it a decentralized identity project? It's many things. I'm not telling you any of them. I'm giving you this image that sort of tells you you're going to get something unlocked with this thing called ISME, which is our token's name, by the way, right? And it's an emotionally charged image that clarifies all that we're making into a simple, easy hook. That's what the simple side of it was. So it's a vision that I'm trying to portray, and I'm trying to do it in a very simple way. Like I said, I believe very firmly in NFT3 and what we're making, and I'll get into it if you want, but I know enough from marketing for 2-3 years that if I start hammering you with details, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, that's what you'll actually hear. I can tell you, right? But the first time, I call it first contact simplicity. The first contact with anybody when it comes to NFT3, I don't want it actually to be something very complicated and boring and something that they can't emotionally connect with. Hence, I just show them the image, right? So cultural is much, much greater than speculative. The cultural needs to be the main hook instead of the speculative. But it also needs to have some simplicity to it in the message so that people can actually latch on. Now, when we say portray the cultural instead of the speculative, what do we really mean? And how much harder is it? In my experience, it's a lot harder. Because now you can't ride any wave. You can't suddenly pivot to whatever the newest thing is. You can't just fill it up with bots and sort of, you can't fake it. The cultural cannot be faked. It has to be handled by somebody who understands the idea, who believes in it, and who knows how to communicate it as well, right? But with that being said, any project actually being able to do this gets long-term holders. That's the holy grail for a project, right? We're probably looking at, I don't know, I would say a year of a bear market now. And at NFT3, we're well-funded, we're sorted on that side, but I'm not really worried about holding my community's attention over this year because I know I have not run a single airdrop to get them here in the first place. I haven't offered them financial incentive yet. I have offered them a vision of, well, we've all been moaning about what Facebook's doing for years now, right? And I mean, no offense or whatever. Maybe some, I don't know. But we've all been moaning about it and not really being able to do anything about it. And I think one of the things NFT3 does is solve that because it gives you control over your identity. The digital backpack that is you and your data is inevitable, right? Which means the fight for you owning that is very, very important. Now, this is what I'm trying to communicate to my audience. And so whoever's in the Interstellars community right now has latched onto that instead of, hey, there's going to be a token launch, it's going to 100x, I'm going to cash out, right? So if the vision is communicated instead of the speculative, then the people that come on board actually stay for longer because they really think we have a shot. I think 100 such projects need to come out so that we can safely say that Meta will not be able to create their walled garden metaverse that they're trying to make. It can't just be us. But while we're at it, we're making an effort. And while we're making an effort, we're trying to market it with as much sincerity and in as much emotion as possible, right? Which is why we're here as well. So this is the experiment that we're running at Marketing NFT3. This is what I advise every project that I come in contact with is try and not play on short-term emotion by offering hype. Play on long-term emotion by offering vision, There are millions and millions of people who do genuinely believe in individual sovereignty. They don't yet know that blockchain can actually offer that because all they hear is BTC pumped or BTC dumped, right? I think as a culture, as a unit, our space needs to communicate our ideals much more than either the speculative or the technical. The speculative brings short-term people, the technical just confuses everybody. So I think creating cultural imagery is probably the strongest shot we have at onboarding the next billion, let's say, for a reason that's more than just the flipping, right? This is another example of the validation of my thesis. I think this guy thinks similarly, right? Where is his power coming from? It's really not a question of impressing people, is it? It's a question of connecting with them. So here's a bona fide genius, I guess we can say, being as funny and as relatable as possible, just so he can connect with everybody on Twitter. And we all know how that's been going, right? So I'll end on this note, I think. Basically, NFT3's marketing, or really, I think, crypto's marketing, is a cultural force and should be treated as such, I think. And the more we can do it, the more we can grow together in a sustainable, long-term way, which is what I hope for all of us. Thank you so much for your time.